Welcome to the Rethink Tank. This is our first episode, podcast number 1. Welcome. I appreciate it. My name's Alexander Gurgat.
Kyle McGuire.
It's a pleasure. And so the whole point and purpose of the Rethink Tank is today there's not a lot of trust in our media. There's not a lot of trust in your fellow companion. And there's a lot of issues going on just socially, not even just politically, just in general. And our whole purpose, what we like to do is just keep an open discourse, listen to as many perspectives as we can and try to boil down these issues and see what we can get to the bottom of. But we live in a world where there's not much discourse. We're silencing and censoring. And I think this is trying to not so much combat that, but just open a doorway for conversation and discourse.
We're going to think about these social issues from a different perspective, hit the topics we want to talk about, Tide Pods possibly, watch out. And we're just going to flow and open your mind to what we think should be thought about.
Right, and also open to what you guys might think and kind of just try to, like we said, open the door for as many perspectives and just an open discourse. So, like I said, my name's Alexander Gurgat. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. We are currently doing our first podcast here in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Kyle and I go to law school at Widener University, and we just kind of I've always wanted to do a podcast, and Kyle and I thought this was the perfect chance to start.
I've been on a few sports podcasts, kind of know what's going on. Video, so this is new. You're going to see our faces a lot, but like Alex said, he's from Cleveland. I am originally from Lancaster, so Harrisburg's just a hop and a skip away. Met in law school. Didn't expect to be in law school, so I never expected to meet Mr. Gurgat. But here we are, and here we are recording a podcast, so let's do it.
Hold on, real quick. So a little bit of background. I went to college at Miami University. I did. My majors were philosophy and political science. I kind of always knew I wanted to go into law school. I did, taekwondo and football and wrestling and baseball, but my favorite passion growing up was debate. They started my debate team when I was a freshman in high school. I was the only one on the team that did it for 4 years first, and it was one of the greatest experiences ever, and I always knew, man, I would love to get paid to do this. I loved arguing. My friends hated being my friend because I would convince them to eat a Tide Pod if I wanted to, because I could convince them to do essentially anything. So I always wanted to do law school, and I don't know, what else about me? I love sports. Cleveland sports is my thing. We'll definitely be touching on that. As much as, you got the balance of the Browns, you also got LeBron, so it's a good time.
I went to school at the University of Pittsburgh at Johnstown. I was an engineering major for a single day before I switched to political science and found what I really like to do. I was involved in politics in my freshman year up into my senior year. Only discovered I wanted to go to law school when I was probably halfway through the first semester of my senior year, so a little different from you, but I found that passion to kind of dive deeper into a different part of what should be thought about statute-wise, regulation-wise, policy-wise. Really got involved with that, got my way into law school. Besides that, big sports fan also. I play a lot of golf now. I was a golfer in college. I beat Mr. Gurgat on the regular.
And that's an understatement, bar none.
But I grew up playing baseball. I played hockey. I played soccer. I played basketball. You name it, I probably tried and failed at it. But I'm good at talking.
That's the goal, right? Yeah, true. Yeah, here we
are.
So I guess we got a couple topics here that, we're ready to get going on.
Dive in. So first we're going to start with a little fiscal spending for you. Super Bowl's coming up. Before we talk about this fiscal spending, I'm going to say, who do you like in the Super Bowl, Mr. Gurgat?
It's one of the most, along with every person else in the country here right now, besides these New England fans and these people near us in Philadelphia.
Whoever's in Dallas.
No one is happy with who they have to root for. Now, me being a Browns fan, I'm used to never having someone to root for.
Yeah, you know what a win is?
No, I do. We just threw a parade for our 0-16 season. Funny story about that real quick. Literally, we needed $7,000 raised to throw this parade to celebrate our 0-16 season. And we honestly only was able to raise $2,000, and Excedrin came in and gave us another $5,000, saying that Cleveland needs the headache relief. So it's a real pain over there for football. So I'm going to go with the Eagles because I cannot stand the Patriots.
I grew up in Lancaster, so I've always liked everything Philadelphia, even when the Sixers didn't know how to play basketball. So I'm going with the Eagles here, and I'm going with the Eagles money line because we're the underdogs, baby. But moving on, talking about money lines, the Super Bowl is going to bring in $4.76 billion worth of bets. Vegas is about to break the record of $138 million, so that means somewhere in there is about $4.5 billion worth of illegal betting. And we're going to hit regulation later, but Pennsylvania, you're not allowed to bet on sports. It's up and coming. It's possibly going to be passed by the legislature soon. So we're hoping that happens. But 4.6 or 4.7 billion, dude.
That's insane.
And it was an ESPN article, so look it up on ESPN. But 4.76 billion, to put it in just a social issue for you, is more than the GDP of the bottom 40 countries. So think about maybe you spend $2 billion doing something else. I don't know. But we're going to hit regulations later. We're going to see how that affects the economy. And
it's just insane, though.
I mean, that's a lot of money.
So the real funny thing is, though, is that it isn't anymore just like win or lose. Like looking at the different spreads that you can bet on in Vegas, like anywhere from the heads or tails at the beginning of the game, the coin flip, to
prop bets. Prop bets, they're everywhere. Parlays. You put in $50, you got to pick 5 bets. You only win money if you hit that. People buy into these bets. First quarter, who's going to win? Second quarter, first half. Second half, third quarter, fourth quarter, money lines. Like a player will have X amount of catches for X amount of yards. You can bet on that over under. You can literally bet on anything, but there's $4.76 billion worth of prop bets, overall bets on the money line for the Super Bowl.
But also, in addition to that, like I just all the different bets, and the only one that's ever been appealing to me has always been the Super Bowl squares. Like I understand the betting in for the Super Bowl. Because since a very young age, my dad's company would always have Super Bowl squares. He'd be like, for your birth year, well, we picked it. And I was like, man, that was always so fun. But you have to like go to a Super Bowl party and hope someone has it. You can't like do that in Vegas.
So, for instance, I got ESPN up here. A record 138.4 million was bet on last year's, and they're already on track to break that for this year. So Vegas is going off. Illegal bets are going off. I don't know. I'm in Pennsylvania, so I can't bet. I wouldn't know. But Patriots are favored by 4.5 points, and it's going to be a good Super Bowl. Watch some commercials, see if you can spot some issues there too.
How much is a Super Bowl commercial right now?
Oh,
Google searching. I'm just curious because what's interesting is how much of a money pit it's become. Like anywhere from.
The average cost of a 30-second ad for the Super Bowl crept up to $5 million this year, and that was from the New York Times. So that's pretty legit. You're running a 30-second ad for $5 million. You better make some revenue off of that. But the commercials are also good, so I'm excited to see how E-Trade ruins the baby one more time.
And but there isn't much inflation there because it was always just about
4.8 million from last year average. So
right, but it's always been about like 4.5, 5 million.
And going off of that, whoever performs at the half of the Super Bowl performs for free, because who's your audience? All of America, world. For sure. The world, extending beyond that, who knows?
Well, let's be honest. The Super Bowl halftime show, that reaches the world. I'm not talking the game does, but I mean, Lady Gaga's YouTube video, that hit every corner of the world. Who is the performer?
Justin Timberlake, I believe.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Doesn't he have some? There was controversy over his new music video. His new music video is about sex, and it's all about how woke he is. I was reading about an article about it, how he's like under fire because he came out with this new song, and it's like all about how woke, but it's just like
I'm gonna be honest,
dirty with this girl.
I don't listen to Justin Timberlake at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no.
Shocker.
Yeah.
He's on the top of my playlist. I'm being sarcastic.
All right. So, since we hit this large chunk of regulations that are illegal bets hitting the universe, how else can you hit us with some regulations, dude?
Well, so we also have the new release of the Cato Human Freedom Index. And what this does is this measures kind of it takes every country in the world and it measures how free they are. Now we all know your initial impression. Of course,
Home of the
America's at
free.
the top. Home of the free, land of the brave, freedom. What is the definition of America? Not only are we do we self-define ourselves in the self-fulfilling prophecy of freedom, but we also go and invade other countries and stick our nose where we don't belong.
So,
in the name of freedom.
Before we tell you what the United States of America actually ranks on the list, pause the video and take a guess.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, not even pause the video. Just sit here and think to yourself.
Yeah.
You already have an inclination.
So
it's probably
my
one,
guess,
two,
top
or three.
5 for sure. You know, I was like, maybe. I was like, for sure. America's
Listen,
the
when I
best.
came across this, you'd be ignorant if your first inclination, top 5 at the lowest.
Yeah.
I mean, you would have to
It's
anticipate
America,
you to be at the
baby.
top. Right. Amen. Amen.
All right, so Gergat, what are we?
We just got to make it great again, I'll tell you. Because, well, first, what did they base it off of?
Oh, that's true.
This index is based and measured on like a whole slew of different kind of ways of evaluating freedom, such as like the freedom to trade, regulation, size of the government, tax levels, and then even like personal freedoms like identity and relationships and religious freedom. And they take all of these into account and they try to like, and they actually score all of these countries.
There's 159 countries on Cato's list.
Yes. Well, that's
The
it. They
human
also
freedom.
there's more countries than that in
Yes.
the world. Understand that, but that's all that they have information for to measure.
Yep.
But the top 5.
Here we go. Let's start at 5, Mr. Gergat. Surprise him.
Australia,
5.
the one place I've always wanted to be in my life.
Yes.
I'm a traveler. I'm going to go to every corner of this world. Still have yet to go there. That's the place I'm dying to go. Ireland is number 4.
Yep.
New Zealand number 3. That's not a shocker at all.
New Zealand, great country.
Honestly, if you sat me down though and asked me what number 1 was, I definitely would have picked this. And they weren't number 1
don't
last
blame you.
year, so I would have been ignorant.
Number 1 last year, Hong Kong.
Number 1 last year was Hong Kong. No, they ain't number 1 anymore. Now Hong Kong is number 2. They actually dropped 0.15 points, which is huge in this index. Number 1.
Wait. Let me guess. America?
Wrong. Switzerland.
Okay.
Which is, if you ever hear a joke about people in war or anything, every country where there's a battle or whatever, we're gonna sit on the
Swiss.
side.
The Swiss, good people. They're just hanging
Yeah,
out.
you do you, yeah. We gonna stay over here, yeah.
Good for them. So tell me, where's America? We got to be 6 or 7 then.
Right, we're right in the top 10. No, 15th. We
No.
are 15th.
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 Thought we were
Why?
17.
No. Oh, 17. I put them
Right.
even higher. I just expect more of us.
So
make us great again.
why do we think we're 17? One thing they talked about was size of government and tax levels. So President Trump right now, regardless of our opinions on how he's doing, did just have a tax cut. And most Americans are seeing money back in their paychecks from $80, probably middle class, $50 to $80 a paycheck, up into your
And that
1%.
adds up huge.
80,000. So
Boom.
that hits our GDP. And like Cato was saying, that some of these lower tax levels incorporate GDP growth. And that's according to them. And, I think taxes are valuable, but to a certain extent, no one wants to lose all their money to a tax. So
And I think it's important to note, though, so this is years 2014 to 2015.
Yes.
Mind you, we just cracked 2018, so we should be expecting the new index to be coming out shortly, but we still don't have
2016,
that yet. So, hats off to Obama.
Yeah.
We climbed up 0.12 points.
in the
which is huge.
2012 Freedom List, United States of America was 20th. So we're climbing.
That's
but
up
20th,
3. That's a huge jump in 1 year.
Yeah.
And for that to be the last year of a presidency, often you don't see kind of big changes like that. Well, actually, I think I misspoke. That's usually we're going to see the biggest change. That's where they're going to be the most radical. That's when they're going to, try to make the biggest moves.
And religious freedom, personal freedoms, that's up to you. We were watching a video regarding the Cato Freedom Index, and one guy said, "Don't regulate my free time." And I have never related to a truer statement in my life. I should be able to go home. I should be able to do what I want in the freedom of my home. I'm not going to invade your home. You don't invade my home. But sadly, some people don't understand that here.
Right.
We have laws. We have regulations.
But see, even just building off of that, how crazy is this? We look at Venezuela. Well, let's hit this. The bottom. So we got the bottom 5 here. So 155 to 159. So 155 is Egypt. Yemen is 156. 157 is Libya. 158 is Venezuela. And last at 159 is Syria, which should not surprise you.
Yeah, not surprising. And something all have in common is there's a lot of religious persecution and war, and you're afraid to go outside over there. And
well, I had the pleasure when I was I went to Miami University, and I did a study abroad project in Oman, Abu Dhabi, and Dubai. And when we were in Dubai, we spent one day, our professor did a really great job of trying to compare. He wanted to give you the yin and the yang. So the one day we went and saw the richest, most expensive mall in the world. But before we went there, he took us to the expats holding facility. An expatriate is somebody, they're usually from like India, commonly from Syria, a lot of these war-stricken, very poor countries. And they will become an expatriate and leave their country illegally, and these countries like Dubai will accept them as an expatriate. They don't become a citizen. They're also not a tourist. They are an expatriate. And they allow them to live in these facilities, and they pay them pennies to the dollar. It's crazy. This most beautiful Wizard of Oz like industry is built off of these people who are desperate. I mean, we were going through this facility, and the cots are this thin. They're sleeping on wire. The girls with us are crying over the cats, the wild cats in the area, more over these men who haven't talked to home in forever.
Let me add on top. So that's like a third world country within
yes,
first world
bar
country.
None.
So I also have experience with third world countries. I was in Belize, and I was on a cruise. I get off the cruise. And first of all, a cruise ship, for every passenger on board that leaves the ship to go into the country, they pay $2 tax to Belize. So specifically, where I was, it was an island in Belize. And we get off, and we take a bus kind of to the other side of the island so we can go on this adventure. And we're talking to one of the tour guides on the bus, and he looks at me and says, like, what do you know? Like, what do you want to know? Ask me questions. So I immediately start asking about infrastructure, building, taxes. Where does all this money go? And coincidentally, on our way to the other side of the island, we passed the mayor of the island, who is the richest man on the island. He has, I forget the number, he has X percentage. He basically owns the island. And they were saying he only comes in there to record his commercial and get out. So all those $2 that go to the cruise ship do not go to the island that is based off of tourism. That's their main income source, is tourism. All the tax goes inland. So talk about these third world countries, taxes aren't being sent to the right places either.
Right. Well, so even like back to those expatriates, like there was a gentleman who was in charge. He himself was an expatriate, and he was in charge of the camp. And he has been there for like over 8 years and hasn't seen his family. And he's in charge. So he's getting the most money out of all these people. And he has just enough money to feed himself and send about $200 a month home for them to live on, his family. He was telling us a story of when he woke up to these bombs going off and having to sneak his family out of the country to a safer, refuge, and then also, himself going to a different country in hopes of making more money. And here he is, he can't even pay to live.
Yep.
And so a lot of these people are from Syria, Venezuela, like these countries.
And cruises are great because
where is it? I gotta look up where India is. Continue. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, but cruises. My dad fortunately has been able to take me on some cruises, and I've really. Cozumel, Mexico.
It's funny because
Cozumel,
you couldn't
Mexico,
get me on a
for
cruise
instance,
to save my life.
Cruises. You're trapped with 3,000 people. You're on the sea. There's no cell phone reception. It's kind of fun, but we're in Cozumel, Mexico, and literally no regulations. So they throw us in this taxi, no seatbelts, no nothing. They drive us in the middle of nowhere. We're flying all over the road. We pull onto some back dirt road, and then apparently there's massages, and there's this, and there's that. And there's no regulations because tourism. So America being 17 on the list not only helps America, but I'm out there, and I'm visiting all these other countries. We're trying to help each other there. So these tourism industries don't have as much regulation as they should because that's how these people are surviving out there.
Right. Legitimately. So I'm having a hard time finding India, but it seems that India. Well, how about this one? Haiti is 78th, which isn't too bad, but when you compare it to all the countries below it,
Belize in my 2012 was 69th, for example.
But back to why America's where it's at. We've been convinced that the problem is elsewhere. Send money to Haiti. There's been a hurricane. Please feed these children, whatever it is. But it's all just more of a ploy than anything to distract you from the fact that the same problem is going on here in our own backyard. When you have places like Detroit, who has a higher infant
Chicago.
The crime in Chicago, but you have the infant mortality rate in Detroit, which is 8, and the infant mortality rate in Haiti, or I totally misspoke. The infant mortality rate in Detroit is 11. The infant mortality rate in Haiti is 8. So that means we are 3 ahead of Haiti in our own backyard. But hey, please grab a couple cans, some ramen noodles, and some water, and send it over to Haiti because that's where the problem is. People in Michigan don't even have clean water. We're giving our own citizens poison. But hey, the problem is elsewhere.
Yeah.
I get. A perfect segue is we got a lot of this information, or it brought our attention to it through John Stossel, who I think is a great dude. He's great at reporting.
Show me that video. Great video.
Yes, and we'll probably put the link in the bio.
I will accept any opinion. I think he will. That's why we're here. We're literally going to take your opinion.
Yeah.
Analyze it, spit it out, and say this is what we think about it.
Yeah, truthfully. So he brings up. I'm Greek, and Greece is number 60. And he's like, think about it. Greece is beautiful. Everybody thinks it's great there. Their economy is shook. They pulled out of the euro a while ago, like a few years ago, and that just destroyed them. Their economy is so bad. Going to Athens, I've never been to Greece yet, and I want to go so bad. But, going there is one of the most dangerous things. Athens, the crime rate there is insane. How much, But
so another point I'm going to hit is we're going to do size of the government, and we're both political science majors. I know a little bit. I worked in state government as a journalist and a little bit lobbying. Size of government, America has a lot of representatives. And I did student government, so I'm going to try and relate it to student government. There was 38 of us for 2,700 people. You break that down. Not sure what it is, but it's X amount per people. So if you think about it, our size of the government is massive. I mean, that's just me. You got 2 senators from every state. But when you have to battle each other to get these regulations, something are good, something are bad, some stuff just never happens.
Well,
I vow the government does great. I believe in our government, 100%.
But still, like you were saying, more often than not, there's a stalemate. Our government shuts down. We have polarized ourselves so much. You are on a team. And Team Democrat, Team
Pennsylvania,
Republican.
for example, you have a Democratic governor, Tom Wolf, great guy. But you have a Republican-controlled Senate and a Republican-controlled House.
And things will get done, I'm sure.
And that's politics. You can vote for whoever you want, and that's how it's created. And there's other issues within politics. But what we're getting at here is that sometimes government is not as efficient as it should be.
Well,
there's those problems that you are taking.
At the same time, as a future lawyer, what do you say? That's the whole purpose of the system. My whole family growing up, the biggest conflict
checks and balances.
Not even that. You want to believe that we have this legal system to find what's right. Two individuals come in with a problem, a conflict, whatever, and it's our job to decide who's right and who's wrong and boil down the issue. And you think it's the perfect equation. But what you come to learn is there's the factors that really determine who wins has nothing to do with a moral compass. It has to do with how much money you got to pay for this attorney. One, it has to do with who your judge is. The amount of factors that have nothing to... I interned for a judge who legitimately looked at me while I was interning for her and was like, I don't care how innocent or how guilty this lawyer's client is, I'm going to throw the book at him until he realizes I don't want him in my court. And it's one of those moments where you sit back and are like, I don't think it's supposed to work.
And in
way.
Pennsylvania, some judges aren't even required to have law degrees.
What?
Yeah, lower. I got to check the district, but it's a lower court municipality judge, and I've met one of them who doesn't have a law degree. He's a great judge, great guy, but when you put people in a position that now it used to be about 20% of these judges were lawyers, and now it's growing to 60 to 70%. Because you have people like us who are going to law school and spending $150,000, and this is our profession now. So when you have people that aren't judges and aren't being trained to do this, can you expect the right outcome?
Right.
I think sometimes you can. It depends on the person. But like you just said,
here's the thing: you're never going to have a perfect system.
No,
you got to go utilitarian. You're going to learn real quick, people. I'm a utilitarian, and I'm a determinist. That's how it is. But the greatest good for the greatest number of people. At some point, you're never going to have a perfect system. You got to just try to do the best for the most amount of people. Yep. But at the same time, when it comes to bringing something into the court system, when it comes to suing somebody, when it comes to defending yourself against prosecution, it comes down to being a financial decision anymore. It isn't, am I right? Am I going to win? Let's say somebody
let me ask
is
you
about
one question, then.
What's that?
Should the president be able to nominate Supreme Court justices, or should it be up to the people?
Well, here's the problem.
Because it's a way around the people vote for the president, and the president makes that decision. So one person...
In the end...
I mean, there's checks and balances behind the nomination.
In the end, though, the most dangerous position is the one that of these people don't have to go through a Congress of 200-some people. They don't have to, create a bill and go through all the loops. All they have to do, out of 7 Supreme Court justices... Correct?
Yeah. Or nine.
Out of 9 Supreme Court justices, they just need to get a majority. So, out of 9 human beings out of 350 million, they can create laws and literally change your outdoor, like you walk outside your door, they can change that world.
9 people.
That's scary.
But
and hold on. You're forgetting the scariest part. Mm-hmm. The scariest part is the fact that they are on term for life. The president can be there for 2 terms, 8 years at the most. These people are there for life. Yeah. That is scary, and you don't have a say in that. So,
I mean, you have a say. You elect your representative and your senator.
But see, then it comes.
But do you though?
No, you don't.
So.
Because that's what I was going to say, too.
There's many issues, and we'll get to all of them.
But no, just look at the past election we had. You had somebody like Gary Johnson, gerrymandering and all this ridiculousness. But you have somebody like Gary Johnson who the rule is all you have to do is get 15% and we'll let you debate Hillary and Trump. The man works his ass off, gets that 15%, and CNN and all the cool, not fake news, people out to support you and get you the news. True. We're like, nah. We need to keep this world polarized and only keep 350 million people. We had 2 options. Listen, I was never going to vote for Hillary ever. But if you think the female president is not in our country today, there's millions of them, and you're going to shove one down our throat, why are we stuck with 2 options?
Welcome to the system.
Welcome to the system.
And maybe that's why we're 17.
Let's say adverse possession. It's if I own this property, it's mine. But if you can prove that you meet these elements and I,
open and notorious.
I notoriously held this property, you knew it.
Continuous. Adverse.
It had to be. What that means is it has to be
hostile.
Hostile.
You have to make
exclusive.
your presence known. You have to use the land as if it was yours. You would have to improve the land.
And if you can prove these elements, even though somebody owns that land, you now adverse possess it. You own it.
You take the land. You own
it's
the
yours.
land.
So
I'm going to give you an instant. I'm getting.
But hold on.
I'll show you.
But real quick, the reason why I brought up adverse possession is if I'm suing you and we're about to, you're trying to take some of my land. Yeah. I don't have a pot to piss in. I have no money. It does not come down to I'm right. Let's say you think you adverse possessed it, but you genuinely didn't. And if I got a good attorney or just a attorney, they'd prove that you didn't, and it's still my land. But I don't have the money to do it. Or you have judges now that say you can exactly. You want to appeal. You get a ticket and you want to go fight it. I had a ticket a little bit ago. This was crazy. This past summer, I was at a bar. holding a drink, and we're standing on the back patio, and the bouncer comes up and knocks the drink out of my hand. And it's like a $15 drink, and I looked at him and I was like, why'd you do that? And he goes, well, you looked like you were about to leave, and you're not allowed to drink on public property. As if I didn't know that. So I was like, all right, I was going to stay on your patio, so you're going to have to go get me a new drink. Long story short, he's like, if all of you don't leave now, we're calling the police. Now, I now learned my lesson, never do this, but I thought the police force and the system is out there to get to the right answer. You know, police aren't there to be a judge and jury. So I was like, please, call the police. Let them decide. I think we could all talk this out.
But we do thank our police. I'll throw that in there.
True.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd have complete anarchy without them.
Yep.
But nonetheless, the officer comes, doesn't talk to me at all, immediately writes me a ticket, everything. I had to go
to court
twice.
Do you have to take a day off work?
Yep.
You're losing pay?
You're losing pay.
Government's losing tax.
I had to pay for an attorney, so I had to pay him. I had to pay for his parking. I had to pay for my parking, and I missed work. Not many people can afford to do that. And think about how many people are disenfranchised and also just completely innocent. And then they get thrown in the system that is it's cyclic, and they're just going to keep you in it. You're never, you are damned for life, essentially. It's crazy.
Can't beat it.
No, you can't. So, I guess, got a little derailed.
I want you to roll into your next topic, dude.
Hold on. So, just to tie this in a bow, right?
Yeah. Let's finish it up.
John Stossel was like, what is freedom? Okay, so we boil this all down. The USA is, dropped and then it's slowly coming back up. Why? Because we have extremely much higher regulation, our taxes are more, and there's a lot of conflict socially and politically. So, in considering that, what is freedom? What is the dignity of an individual? Do you think we even preserve the dignity of an individual anymore? We're silencing everybody. We are censoring anything that makes me feel uncomfortable, as if the world is comfortable.
And the worst part is that at your fingertips, where's your phone? You got your phone?
Yes.
See, at your fingertips is the rest of the world. And I think that is to play into it. When you go back to that, I forget, I think it happened in California. There was a murder, but it involved an Apple iPhone. And the government wanted access to everything Apple had, and they said no, so thank you, Apple. I don't want them to know about me because I'm going to go back to earlier, my freedom.
Hold on. But talking about Apple, at the same time, though, they're all about the dollar bill. They know they lose dollars if they did that. You have the same situation in China where China goes, whoa. You are allowing people in freedom to sell apps that allow people to circumvent our censorship of the internet. You need to get rid of that. Apple's like, sure.
Yeah.
Where's the freedom in that?
Yeah.
Where's the dignity in that business?
For more, this phone problem is everything. If you have a minute and you want to have some fun, start talking about something you want and don't have, and watch the ad pop up on Facebook.
It's crazy. It is crazy. I've tried it. I don't have a cat. Personally, not a fan of cats. And the coolest thing is you sit there when your phone's off, and you just we need to get the cat food. Yeah, hey, make sure we get the cat some cat food. I think the cat's hungry. We need to get some cat food. Facebook will start advertising cat food.
And the scariest part is I have an Alexa in my room. It's unplugged now. I know they're listening.
Wait, did you hear how they solved the murder that way?
Well, yeah. But also, guess what? So Russian hackers recently, I'm going to throw this one in there, a tidbit. Russian hackers tracked fitness bands. And guess what? They tracked them to the Middle East. And they found a concentration of fitness bands somewhere in Syria that it developed to be a U.S. Special Forces base in Syria. All the Marines were wearing fitness bands. They tracked it via GPS. Bang. And then our news thought it was smart to say we have special ops forces in Syria and let's show the entire.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And I believe in military. We need military. We're a powerful nation. I'm thankful for it. But
at the same time,
when we have these Marines wearing fitness bands that can be tracked by Russian hackers. No one's free now. I don't wear a watch. I don't wear a fitness band. I did for a little bit, and I'm not going to say I took it off because I broke it in the shower. But people have to be careful of what they do every day because there's a camera here or there's a recording device here.
Everywhere.
And if you go to China, Everyone has facial recognition. I don't want to live in a world like that. You probably don't either.
How about this one, though? Let's talk about the boy that he was my age and went to North Korea. He was think about it, this is crazy. He went to the high school of one of my housemates in college. My housemate was telling me they were really wealthy, so wealthy that the dad actually collects planes. So if that gives you an idea of where they're at, these aren't some like poor people. So they got influence. And this kid, now, my dad was always like, you deserved it, if you asked me to go to North Korea, I'd never let you. And at the same time, I wanted to push him. I was like, Dad, I feel like if I tried to push you enough, you might let me. But I don't think, he's saying he won't. Long story short, though, this kid goes, and there's a video from the farthest, angle down a hallway of him taking a North Korean poster or flag off the wall.
And if that's not the dumbest thing you could do in North Korea.
But hold on, at the same time though, we're talking about North Korea, a place with fake grocery stores,
and I'm gonna guess
with starving humans and everything else, and we're gonna believe the media out of a place that, literally you can't access the internet, nothing. It is the most censored place in the world, and we're gonna believe that's the video. We can't even make out, it's literally just a ghost. And this kid is in court crying his eyes out, just like, oh my God, I didn't mean to do. And you could tell he was coerced. He was bad. I want to believe, maybe it's because the ignorance and naive.
Tragic
I want
death,
to believe he didn't actually do it.
Tragic death, but
tragic
North Korea,
death. They beat him into a coma the second they took him out of court. And then as goodwill, they sent his vegetable body back.
But that's the world we live in.
Truth. So in that, considering North Korea and everything else, what is freedom? Free from coercion? Do we have coercion still?
Yeah.
I think this is the perfect segue.
I don't think I'm free at all.
Yeah.
But segue, we're going to hit sports again. We're going to end with sports again.
Well, no.
We have two. We're not ending. We're going to end on a fun one.
Yeah, we good. But this is the segue to
Chief Wow.
to the most heartbreaking thing ever. I was literally numb and stalled in my existence Monday. I was numb. Couldn't get myself to do homework or anything. The people of America have taken my Chief Wahoo. I just think this is a load of baloney.
And if you don't understand Chief Wahoo, Cleveland Indians, Major League Baseball franchise from Mr. Gugat's hometown, yes. Cleveland, no longer allows to have the Indian logo.
Pull here. Actually, now keep going.
It's censored. It's now just a kind of an ugly C. Just like Cleveland.
So,
sorry.
What people do. So I understand.
So the high school I went to is called the Warwick Warriors, and when I was a junior, the Warriors offended some people, so we lost our logo. You know what? Fair enough to me. Come back a couple years later, junior, senior year maybe, and they say we don't like the name Warriors either. And I'm from Lidditz, Pennsylvania. That's where Warwick High School is, specifically in Lancaster. Lidditz is known for Sturgis pretzels. They recommended we change our name to the Warwick Pretzels. And if that's not the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
The pretzels.
Yeah, dude, you don't want to be a fan of the pretzels?
What's your mascot? If it's a pretzel. Hey, whatever.
Your guess, you tell me. But
so
Chief Wahoo.
Chief Wahoo, people don't realize that, there's a foundation and root. This isn't just we didn't just name ourselves the Indians. The Cleveland baseball team was first the Cleveland Spiders. And it wasn't until 1987. No, I'm sorry. I got to find when we actually did. It wasn't until the 1920s, I'm pretty sure, that we transitioned. And it was due to the retirement of Louis Sockalexis, who is, I definitely would suggest you going and Wikipedia it. He is at least one of the first Native American baseball players ever in the MLB. And there's a little bit of speculation around it.
They originated in 1900.
The argument is he was the first professional baseball player, but he was the first to play for the MLB. There was also a Native American that played for the American Baseball League or the up-and-coming league before it became the MLB.
Yeah.
Well, before that. So he was the first, at least in the MLB.
The American League, you got it.
Yes, the American League, okay. And that being said, he was one of the biggest, influences on the Cleveland baseball team. They called him, Deerfoot of the Diamond, and he wore it as a badge of honor. And once he reached his retirement, they wanted to honor him. They still respected him significantly. He was, an icon for the team. And Cleveland as a city would, when he would come up to bat, they do the tribal,
that's Cleveland. Though.
And,
they were
and
just
that's
in
what
the.
it built.
How close they make it to the World Series?
Those skanky Cubs.
I get
from
why
us,
people
but,
get offended, and it's
but
understandable.
still, hold on.
But should you?
They named the team after him, because so many people. Oh, that was it. The story that is really. So the legacy behind this is they wanted to rename the team. They to change the name from the Cleveland Spiders, and so the Plain Dealer actually took in some. People were writing in their opinion on what they wanted their name, what the name to be, and it was like a little girl who was like really young, and she wrote an expo on. The young girl who wrote to one of the sports writers whose column requested suggestions, she specifically mentioned Sock Alexis and his heritage. A brief story in February 28th, 1915 of the Plain Dealer states that the Cleveland Indians would wear the depiction of an Indian head on the left sleeve of their uniforms to keep the Indians reminded of the Braves some of the,
I get your point, though. So to hit Chief Wahoo. What does Chief Wahoo mean to you?
Well, what's crazy is this is my entire life. And what's sad is we live in a world where, there's people who didn't even know they were supposed to be bothered by Chief Wahoo until Monday they were told he existed. We live in a society, us millennials, wake up every day logging into Facebook to find out what I need to be angry about today. And so it was the most irritating part seeing these people, there was this one girl that I was close with who deliberately did it to scrape it, to poke at me, and I made sure not to respond. But it's just funny that, it wasn't even on your radar until you found out you needed to be offended about it, which was the craziest part of it all. And what's even funnier is there was an expo.
What's next? So
exactly, where do you draw the line?
Washington Redskins. I give the Redskins till 2020 until they turn into
why did
Washington.
we change ours? Why did we change it? Because the MLB went to the Cleveland Indians and was like, "You're going to lose hosting the All-Star game if you don't change the logo or dispose of the logo." And what's funny is the NFL goes to the Redskins and goes, "If you don't dispose of your logo and your name, we're going to take away your trademark or your copyright so people can now." And the Redskins were like, "Do it." People are still going to be buying it. We will still have our support, even though people will be making money off of it.
Redskins just got
They'll still be buying our stuff.
Throw that in there.
Yeah, well, the Browns were trying. We were trying.
All right, but so Chief Wahoo's gone. Cleveland's got a big C. Probably
a block C.
Yeah,
but
nice.
But there was an expo by Sock Alexis's daughter, who she was talking about how he was just, this was like one of the proudest moments of his life. I mean, he is forever commemorated in an entire city that supports his memory. And I think people that don't live that or aren't exposed to it or don't want to hear it because they're a liberal hippie, they would much rather hear, they would much rather just know what they need to get it triggered by and fight it. And when myself, as that devil white straight male goes, this was my childhood. This was I'm 24, and for 24 years, that has been the baseball team that my dad has taken me to that game. I've traveled the country, going to their games. It's insane. And then I'm not allowed to have that because other people who it does not affect are saying that you need to be offended. Not the people who are actually involved.
I'm gonna cite a quick. It's an opinion and editorial letters and columns from Cleveland.com. It's just Northeastern Ohio news, but at the end, the guy says Indians. He talks about Indians' attendance. So he says it didn't surge more than 2 million last year because Chief Wahoo was on the jersey. It's because the team won 102 games. And I think that's where you base your material. If the team's winning, let them be. That's winning 102 games. That's impressive. And then going and
but even the wins shouldn't have anything to do with it.
No, but that's what he's saying.
I'll be the first to concede the Browns at 0-16 if they had something that, if they had Cleveland Brown from Family Guy on the side of their helmet, they would probably, I would be in full support of getting rid of that. It doesn't matter how good you are. If you're appropriating and being disgusting, yes. But there's a difference between, mocking something, but see, there's a common link between Chief Wahoo and the Redskin logo, that the Redskin logo is more of a picture, and this is more of a caricature.
Yeah.
But people also don't take that picture and put it next to Louis Sakalaxis, and you see how similar they look. Now, granted, that could just be because he's a Native American, but nonetheless, the picture is clearly based off of him.
That's in full support of someone, It doesn't make me mad, nor does it make me sad. But I'm just sitting here, listen, another regulation. Not even by the government, but there's people under the government that control other people that, in the end, hit people like us. And that's your trickle-down effect.
Boom. And what's funny is, why was this a segue from, the Human Freedom Index? It's, why are we ranked lower than Switzerland? Switzerland was the first to legalize gay marriage. You have these countries that there's a mentality in this country where we want to nestle ourselves in our corner of the same idea and perspective, and nobody wants to listen to why somebody else might support this. You could sit there and go, well, you don't want to sit down and listen to why somebody might be offended by that. And I beg of you to find somebody that is genuinely offended by this who isn't white. Boom. Fact of the matter. It's all these activist white people that are trying to do good and be the social justice warrior they are.
So, he hit Chief Wahoo. So that's our trickle down from some organization telling the MLB this has to change, and then them losing the All-Star game. So they end up changing it, and it hits people like us.
Right.
So the reverse way of this is trickle up. I don't know. I don't think that works that way.
Hey, why not?
But kids are dumb nowadays. They started to eat Tide Pods. And these kids started to eat Tide Pods, and now the news picks up on it. Think about it. So it not only does it go down, but it also starts with us.
Right. Oh, totally.
Don't eat a Tide Pod.
We literally wake up and log on to Facebook or whatever it is, Twitter, to see exactly what it is now that I need to be offended about or get hooked on. Post Malone's the hottest thing since sliced bread.
He's my new favorite rapper.
He looks like he walked out of a homeless
and he did
jungle.
Just say something at the races for the Pegasus race in Miami, one of the largest purses for horse racing. He's sitting down there in a weird-ass suit, and he just says, let's go to the races, and he doesn't even know what day it is.
At the same time, though, he's a great dude. I have such
not only are we in the Tide
humble
Pod,
opinion for him. He's so great.
Post Malone, awesome dude.
But still, nonetheless, it goes
music.
to show what our culture is. You got this, what's his name, 69, 6'9", or whatever?
6'9"?
You got him, you've got...
XXXTentacion.
Who's the dude that just did the one video where he's got, the dreadlocks, Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci gang. Whatever the hell it is. I don't even care.
Little Pump.
Yeah, Little Pump. And he's traveling the country. The kid's 17.
Rapper generation. My friend, fun fact, went to his concert, got kicked out before he even made it in there. That's how bad Little Pump concerts are. But anyway, so Tide Pods. Would you eat a Tide Pod?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. See? There's your answer.
No, let's be honest. No. I didn't even think...
No one should eat a Tide Pod.
Yo, I genuinely thought that this was a meme gone... I just thought it was
a meme. Guess what? Social media, dude. Social media drove this out of control to the point where, it's a joke. I'm going to eat this Tide Pod. Yeah, Tide Pod,
But then there were people eating Tide Pods.
But then some kids were like, I'm going to put it on a piece as a topping. And then you just have your people who are just like, I'm just going to eat it.
It's insane.
That's smart. And the strongest will survive. That's all I have to say about that.
Yo.
So if you can eat the Tide Pod and survive, good for you. Because I definitely won't eat a Tide Pod.
Yeah. What was the one? Well, we were digging into some things. The funny quote that I came across was, Obama came for our guns and Trump's coming for our Tide Pods. This world's full of
stock
baloney.
Up on your Tide Pods before. This is also a myth, but Tide is not discontinuing the Tide Pod. It's such a great idea. I use them in college. Like, you carry your Tide Pod, throw it in. You don't have to carry your big jug.
So they're not discontinuing it?
No,
Okay,
no. Because
but see, I didn't even think that there were actually people eating them until we had to go and find the videos because I just thought it was all a joke.
Hop on YouTube and say, actually, YouTube started taking
YouTube's taking a stand.
Good for YouTube. But, I always think we should hit one of these irrelevant meme issues per day because social media, like everything else, are you free when you can post everything on social media? Because now something can get across the other side. So I'm just going to flip.
But what is social media when everything on your feed is exactly what you want to hear? You've got Russia putting things like for...
Oh, Russian ads? Don't get me started.
Exactly. Like even though the Russian ads are like 3 pictures and they would do literally nothing to convince a wall. But that's a whole nother world.
I know.
Like, what's funny is like these kind of trends. Like, it's one thing for everybody.
What happens?
Challenge.
It
like,
happens every year.
This is silly.
Social media trend. It relapses every 3-4 months. Something will pop up, and that's the craze, and then it will die out. And
but see, the worst part about it, though, is at the same time you have on both sides of any issue, you have an article that gives facts and evidence for either side of the argument.
Yep. And that's
the way that literally the takeaway for this podcast, the reason for it, kind of I picture this image, and it's one of the coolest pictures I ever saw, and it shows 2 men standing across from each other, and in between them is a 6. And the one guy goes, "It's a 6." And the guy standing across from him goes, "It's a 9." And until you can try your damnedest to take yourself out of your own world and put your, the famous philosopher would always say, what's it like for a bat to be a bat? Not for you to be a bat. Try to think what it's like for a bat to be a bat. Try to put yourself in a gay female's shoes, in a different perspective, the other side of the world. Like they live a totally different perspective, and we're trying to be a group and live together. And
that your perspective is wrong, but when you see one side of the wall and you're here and someone's over here, it's totally different. So instead of arguing what you see, understand what they see. Boom. You learn so much more.
Well, you know what? This is
you can still have your opinion.
Yeah. Well,
you can still say this side is better.
But you know what? You shouldn't hold your opinion if you aren't listening to these other opinions.
Yes.
Because that means you're blind in your own bias. But what you need to do is hear every opinion you can, and then if you still hold on to that same opinion, then you've done your discourse and you can hold on to it. But it's funny because, when we're in law school, they will give us a case, and kids will literally come up to you and go, you're wrong. And you're like, yo, we literally have a job because both sides can be right. It depends on how you argue it.
There's 2 sides
and that comes to any issue anymore.
Yeah. And that's an exam. A final exam for law school has no correct answer. And you're going to sit at me and be like, wow, he's got to be wrong. No, they give you a fact pattern. You can argue it any way you want, depending on the law and your rule and how you write it. And I think that's how society should be viewed. There is no correct answer. But you need to sit there, understand what's going on, explain why you value your opinion in such a way and why it is better than the other side. Not even better, but why you value that opinion in your sense.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And put it out there. I'm not going to sit here and tell him that he's wrong, and we're going to argue because it's fun and we like doing that.
True.
But, look at it a different way every now and then. Take the article that pisses you off and read it from someone else's perspective. I watched the State of the Union last night on Fox News. And for me, that's out there. But, when watching Fox News, you see it in a different perspective than MSNBC.
You know what's hilarious? And Andre will attest to this. When we were watching it last night, I just turned on the TV because I forgot about it until you reminded me. I turned it on. It was on CNN. And I watched it through CNN, and I realized, so it was done with, and then they started, they had a rebuttal that followed it. And I looked at Andre, and I was like, I think this is awesome. If you're going to nationally televise one half of the argument, you need to be able to have let me sit there and try to digest it and come to my own opinion so I can hear both biased rhetorics and try to come to a decision. But then I realized at the end of it all, I was like, damn, I just watched it all on CNN. I bet you if I watched it on Fox or something else, it wouldn't have had that comparison.
Thank you.
And what's sad is that just happened to be the channel. I thought I got more value on it than a different channel, but it's like I just happened to be on that one. What if I picked a different one or happened to stumble on a NBC? It would have been completely different.
So, and
in conclusion, I think it gives value to our discussions.
Yes, just understand the whole ball of what's going on. That's I don't even know how to
understand this. Understand you'll never understand the whole ball. Live like Socrates. Ask why. Try to learn from your partner.
Ask why.
Boom. Hey, man, and on that note, I think it's the perfect time to end. Yo, I appreciate you all. Great job. Thank you, people.
Yeah, thank you. And
it'll be a pleasure.